Thank you very much, Sonia. So in this panel discussion, public funding, alternative business modes, social and solidarity economy, we will have 3 panelists. Unfortunately, Mrs. Vanessa Moungar is ill and will not be able to attend. So we have Essma Ben Hamida, co-founder and chairman of Enda and Inter-arabe, Racha Alkhawaja, CDO of Equitativa, and founder of the association Rich Mentoring. And so basically with us, thank you very much. So Essma, I've got a first question make the transition with the previous round table here, including all the difficulties that have been mentioned. What are the different gaps that you can notice when it comes to funding to actually promote leadership and empowerment of women? Do you have examples of programs? And for what generation and social background do you think this is more relevant? Essma, can you hear us? Thank you, Yann. Thank you very much to the Arab World Institute for inviting me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this model here in Tunisia that started a few years back. So talking about the gaps after the independence, Tunisia, thanks to Bourguiba, tried to really promote emancipation of women with a legal framework to include women in the economy and the market economy. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of exclusion for women: access to credit, access to funding, access to technology, access to professional network. It's nothing new, but even here, I think here it's very important, because I do believe that women here are very educated, but still, here when it comes to access to credit, well, like everywhere else in the world, here in 2011, for example, so 75% of women asking for a bank funding, only 30% here got the agreement. So that means here, like a limited access to property, no information to get access to to funding information. And 30 years ago, when we started the microcredit, in 95, first time I sent a woman to the bank, she cried. And that was just to give you an idea of the situation. How really going to the bank, it wasn't accessible to women at the time, back in the 90s. When we talk about entrepreneurship, now in 2017, so there was about 710,000 companies, very small companies, micro companies, employing about 1 million people. And this is why Enda, in 28 years ago, introduced for the first time microfinancing according to the good practices available internationally for women. So this program was targeted for women to give them the opportunity here to really get involved. So just to give you a figure, we managed to support 950,000 men and women in rural areas and poorer areas of the countries. And actually, we started with women initially, as I told you, but then women asked us to extend that to men. So that represents about 2 billion euros over 28 years. So these are microcredits up to 15,000 euros. And it was the first time that they could really start a business. It's not that the Tunisian woman is not active, but it gave them the opportunity to actually have this opportunity to really develop a small business, to negotiate, to trade, to access market. So most of the time, for most women at the time, couldn't read or write. Since 2011, after the revolution in Tunisia, we have a lot of more young people, and we realize that it's a kind of the second or even third generation of entrepreneurs, the children or grandchildren of the first beneficiaries 28 years ago. So we've managed to cover the whole territory of Tunisia with like mobile offices. And we have about 2,000 young agents that are available for these clients, these women. So today it is about, we're reaching 70% of women and 30% of men. And I think this is why today we need to talk about here, not talk only about women's emancipation, but about men's emancipation too. Thank you very much. Racha, I guess the situation in the Emirates is different. So it must be very different. Your situation. I'm sorry, we can't hear you. So in the Emirates, things change pretty quickly. There is a large movement starting by the government to really promote women in the boards of companies, in entrepreneurship, in finance, investment, at very senior level. So we see a lot of changes in the Emirates at the moment. And I don't know if you saw that, but 2 weeks ago, there is a directive from the government on quotas. I know quotas, some people love it, some people hate it. Some people really think that we shouldn't use this tool to improve the situation. But in this directive, all the listed companies on the stock exchange will have to have at least one female board member. So personally, I think we need quotas. Maybe we won't need them in 3 years, in 5 years, or in 10 years. But at the moment, I do think it's a good idea, as I still believe that for companies, when it comes to diversity, the inclusion of women, I don't think they're necessarily always ready to really make the jump. To take that decision to include more women on the board. And I think that this is going to help a lot the situation. And for entrepreneurship, I think the government is really pushing hard women with a lot of programs to finance women in business here at local level.
So are you talking about public financing or public finance? Things are getting better in the private sector, but not as good as with hope. Stéphanie Rocher, what's the experience of the MGEN with facilitating leadership in your activities and with regards to health matters? What would you say? Yes, MGN is an important actor of in the social field. Implicating women, involving them is doesn't mean that they lead projects necessarily, but with regards to health, the role of women in society, it's important, this aspect of things. So we try to educate people so that if a woman wants to be an entrepreneur, she knows that she has a role to play. We work on the time when things, she can get educated, people can know exactly how they can help them, how we can encourage little girls to do scientific studies. We realize that few women have scientific studies, and personally, I think that some steps can be encouraged, but if there are some difficulties, then it will be difficult to have more women who are entrepreneurs. When you say about difficulties, issues, is that from the women themselves, or with regards to some actions, women don't like to work in certain fields, particular fields, in the scientific field, for instance? Less women study sciences than men. And of course, in the company as well, unfortunately, the company makes the woman feel guilty, for having a family and while she's working, and sometimes young mothers are discriminated against when they have young children. There is a terrible dilemma for women sometimes, with this regard. Russia, I see you agreeing, shaking your head, yes. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the psychological and social help that women get. Which you had. Yes, I started my career. Yes, I agree with Stéphanie. I'm a mathematician. And there weren't many mathematicians were women in universities, were studying, maths, and there were many hurdles to go through. And even my family said, why are you studying maths? Why don't you do something different? They're not against it, but it's not the natural process of things for a woman to study maths. Maybe be a doctor if you want to study sciences. I didn't want to be a doctor. So I studied maths, and I did my MBA at Imperial College in London. Then I worked at trading floor in large companies, American banks, Tech Street, large companies. Trading was. It's a whole economy, the trading floors. There was nearly only men, about 400 men and 4 women. I was very young at the time. I was 22. I didn't see the difference at that age. It took me a few years to realize I was treated differently, that I wasn't given responsibilities. and it took several years for me to see these things. To me, I was just going to work. I was working well like everybody else. And it's later on in my career that I had some mentoring. And that's, this helped my career a lot. In London, there are lots of mentoring programs. When I was in the Emirates, I had a very good job. I was looking after the whole Middle East, and I realized that many young women said, can I have a coffee with you? Can I ask questions? And the questions were always around confidence, self-confidence, about dealing with family and work responsibilities, being a woman. And I think during the first 10, 15 years when I had my children, I didn't really think about things. My parents were very supportive towards me. They told me I had to work. You have children, yes, but you have to work, and they'll go to university. What are you going to do after that? And both sides of the family, everybody was working. And after a few years, I realized that women could have access, financial access. Approach. So I set up a non-profit organization for mentoring for women, just for professional women, which is called Reach Mentoring. And it's been in place for 7 years, this organization. It's the first non-profit organization in Dubai.
Financier, et ça les aide tellement.
And things are going very well. I wanted to support women for things that not financial matters. Because it's non-profit, they weren't paying. Although there are some criteria to enter the program. And for 1 year, they have access to who can guide them, so that bear in mind that men are, well, a little bit different than women, but not so much that. I don't think we should concentrate more on about men and women, but I think that, we're all in the corporate world, and for most of us, our mother worked, but our grandmother did not. So maybe with just the first or maybe second generation to be in the corporate world, there is stress, there's politics, there's teamwork. I'm sorry, I can't hear the speaker. Oh yes, achievements and so on. Quite new for us. And that is why at Reach we mentor women with regards to anything that is not financial, and we have very good results. From our conversation, you said that this advice was not in the company itself because, it's so difficult to talk about personal problems. So yes, it's taken outside the company, so that, they can talk about their personal problems. For many women, the first question was, well, I'm going to have a baby. What do? I don't know if I can carry on working. And being mentored in the same company wasn't good. They wouldn't have a safe environment to discuss their issues. There's been some research that's been done, I think, from McKinsey, which showed the evolution of women over the last 10 years, and lots of women are are working and who carry on working decreases. So then 10 years later, when I have children, there's a big drop. And they don't work anymore, and that's why we are coming in to mentor them and help them in this way. Racha has told us about different types of support, which are not financial support, which are cultural support. I think you support women who does Enda do to help women? Didn't explain very well how we worked. We were an NGO at first. Then we transferred everything to another company, and the NGO today is dedicating its activities to supporting women. As I said previously, the women with whom we work come from popular areas and rural areas as well, which didn't access training, experiences, networking, and so on. So historically, Tunisia is not like sub-Saharan Africa or Asia or Latin America, where women are traditionally entrepreneurs on the markets. We see that street, the Arabic or Muslim women are active inside of the home. So when we gave credit, we noticed that they didn't just need money, but they need to improve their competencies in the managerial area and so on. As Racha said, to start micro-entrepreneurships. I would like to remind you that these women need to network. As she said, actually, many centuries that men have dominated the world. And it's only very recently that women have managed to integrate the economic sector, entrepreneurship with men. Unfortunately, Tunisia, which had a very good place in the World Economic Forum, has gone down with regards to gender equality. And I think we're very happy, very lucky, because we have a gender strategy and we are trying to fill the gaps which we have seen in women in order to take them to the same level as men. So the support that we offer is quite basic, which is creating a company, expanding, having a business plan, and so on. As I said previously, they didn't learn this in school. About regularization of fiscal situations. Don't forget that microfinance is a non-formal process, and our role is to encourage these companies to become formal. We carry out a lot of awareness and group teaching in order to help these women to have formal companies. The entrepreneurship culture, as I said, does not exist. So we are trying to transfer that to universities, to secondary schools, to other structures, to workshops, to help young people to do this. And what we have done as well is that the soft skills are very important.
And we can see also that some of them are shy, they don't have the opportunity to talk. So just to talk with a man, maybe that seems easy, but if you need to negotiate with a man, that's not going to be easy at the beginning. So this is why we are trying really to promote personal development and also the skills of the 21st century, with the digital skills, technology, and also having a training online. We also helping farmers. So it's really important here. There is not easy. Also, you need to learn how to sell your product. And sometimes also networking is very important. And another aspect is also about the financial education. Women need to know how you create a budget, how your budgeting for your company is different, how you can manage a debt, how the insurance you need. So that's very important. And another aspect is also on socio-economical rights. So the rights are there. However, most women are not aware of how strong these rights are. So really, these women, they want to learn. They want to know. And I think here it's very important because women are here and they want to learn. They want this training, this networking, where sometimes it's difficult to actually attract men to be trained. I'm sorry to tell you, Yann, but men think that they're self-sufficient, that they've got nothing to learn, and they want the money. They always need money. So I think it's a shame because today you really feel how important it is to think about gender equality. So if we're still late today, that's indeed so we have supported a lot of women, but I think that we need to go even further, supporting men as well, training them so that when they trained, because it's important as a woman, when you go back home, you need someone who can understand you. So, not just a man that thinks that he's superior because he's a man. And a very last point. So women today, after 25 years, are waking up and they think about themselves, about their well-being. And I remember the first years of Enda, I remember the answers were no, we have no time, priorities children, is our home. And I don't know what changed, but they also realized that they want to have fun and they want to dance and attend yoga classes. And I think this is very important. Indeed, here, it also makes a difference against the violence and abuse. So again, what is the impact on women? So we conducted some studies, and 90% of women will tell you that their income is better, their revenue, their lifestyle, but also they increase their decision power. They are empowered. They have a better control on their own resources and the resources of the family. I think this is important, and that would be ideal if men could also attend the same type of training, benefit from some type of support. And you're going to ask me why? Why you don't go and get them? Well, they are in the cafes, so in the bars, so we need to find a way to get there. So Stéphanie, Roger, I think you agreed on the soft skills part and this idea of training men. So is that something that you're also trying to do? I don't think this is achievable. No, I think what we try to do is try to work on raising awareness, prevention. So when we talk about gender equality, fighting discrimination, so you need to help everyone, men and women, to realize that you need to fight against inequalities. So we have different partnerships as well to promote women in technology, on women healthcare, because there is discrimination as well on health. And we always think that cardiovascular disease is for men after 60, but that's not true. So I think we need to fight against all stereotypes. That starts with education. You need to really go beyond, and really this educational role is essential. We started a program called Stereotypes. So that teachers here can react on this inequality. But also as employer, there's a lot of work to be done. When we look at the role of women, so in our health institutions, half leadership is women. So when you look also at all the data, very often that's going to be about social action. So here, that would be interesting. So that could be very different. You can have different aspirations, and all these discussions need to be opened. It's also about this idea of working on equality. You have two levels. Women get to a management role on when they get to the 50s, usually after a divorce. So when you need more revenue, more income, and realize actually that if we support them earlier, well, that's very important to support them. And helping them as well with the child support. And that makes a difference. Because we still, in France, some jobs are more open to women, but usually these are the jobs that have become, precarious. And so the teachers lost 4 times their purchasing power. The healthcare here, same thing. So I think it's really about equality between men and women. We try to maintain that, of course, as a company, but how you can promote that with external stakeholders. And the last aspect is also talk about entrepreneurship and to show that the social economy can be a way to create your own company, different company. And these are the different areas we're working on, and healthcare, of course. So really how to promote health. We indeed, sorry, I was just going to say thank you, Stéphanie. I think that all the points indeed you've mentioned are, for me, essential. And when we talk in different panels about gender equality, I think sometimes we have to be also very crude, and that's the reality. And I think in the Middle East, it's not always very politically correct. So you need to also take this opportunity, and a lot of the companies I've worked, I know all the business people, and I can see also the way they think. And that's the way you're right. Many men would say that, yeah, if I have a woman working really well, of course I'll pay her as much as men. But there's a lot of men that don't think that way. And I sat in a lot of meetings where privately you told, I have a budget. So basically this man has a family, 4 children. I have one budget, so I have to pay him more than this woman because she's got a rich husband. That's the way people do it. So it's not based on merits. And it's not only a stereotype either. It's just that they think it's okay to think this way. That they're taking the right decision because this man, has 4 children, has a family, and his wife is a housewife compared to that other woman working in a company, but she has a working husband. So I think there's a lot of situations, and it's not fair. It's not fair for women. I don't know. I want to be independent. Maybe I'm separated and I don't want to tell people. And that shouldn't be the conversation. That shouldn't be in the discussion. Should be, am I compensated enough for the work and for the profits I'm bringing to the company? My connection is not very good. I think we just have 2 minutes to finish. So, if you had like one legislation, one piece of legislation, what would you do? Education. I want to see more women in scientific careers and financial careers. Essma? Well, I know one. It's difficult one. I don't think I can say one. So first of all, reduce bureaucracy, making things easier for entrepreneurship, give the opportunity to women to really take over. And I think it's very important here to give more power to women. And I think if we'll see more women in the government, in the administrations, I think we'll see more changes. And that will be very important to support women, to give more space to women. Stéphanie? So I'm just going to add to what's been said. So I think it's about the implementation. I think we need a concrete implementation, and we need sanctions if they're not really implemented, and about health. Thank you. So we talked about the financing. We talked about a lot of other topics on support, training, but also providing information to women, having the right to be a mother and have a job. And that's not always a question of money. Of course, you also need money to develop a business. But sometimes it's also about the different support, like more cultural and social. Thank you very much to the three of you, to my three panelists this afternoon. Thank you for sharing your experience. And there is now a networking break of 15 minutes. And at 3:45, you will have a keynote speaker from Deloitte on a focused example of proactive corporate strategy. Thank you very much. Thank you and goodbye.